Andrew, I think we have a quorum now.
I'm seeing it. I'm making a note for Jesse's attendance list. We need to assign the wonderful task of minutes. This should be a relatively easy one for the minutes if anybody would like to volunteer.
I'm happy.
Go ahead.
I'm happy to do it. I may have to be a little on and off for bedtime at a certain hour, but I'm happy to do it as long as that's okay.
Courtney, that's really great. Can you stay for the regular transportation meeting when you volunteer to do this, or is it just for your joint part?
I will try. It's a little dicey over in my household this evening.
Hey, Tyler, you joining?
Okay. I don't want to put extra pressure on you.
I'm also happy to split it with somebody who's on transportation.
Remind people that you do not need to record who said what. You just don't have to.
I know, and I'm honestly, this is more of a time constraint than I'm a fast note taker. I actually transcribe without looking, so it's not that. It's more of a. I have 2 kids and a husband who also is on a Zoom right now.
And I'll clarify for the group, like 1 page is all we're looking for these days. And
yeah, good. I'll pick up where Courtney leaves off. Okay.
Thanks, Bob.
Thanks. Sounds like a plan.
Great. Welcome to our joint transportation and public safety task force. William, did you want to start your part of the meeting?
Yeah, of course.
They have to be as panelists. I'm sure they will. Give me a second.
Everybody, please mute if you're not talking. It would be appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is William Ortiz. I'm one of the co-chairs of the Public Safety Task Force. Polly and I were discussing about public safety issues here in the Upper West Side, and we came across a topic that is very important to us, and we saw that it coincides with transportation. Reached out to Andrew and Howard, and they were happy to host us for this evening. I have a small PowerPoint presentation I'd like to share.
You should be able to share the screen.
I love it. Yes, it works. Okie dokes. So the today's topic is to discuss the idea and explore the possibility of getting guardrails at the 72nd Street and 96th Street train station on the Broadway on the 1, 2, 3 line. It's, you know, earlier this year we had a woman who was shoved into the train station at 42nd Street and sadly passed away. And, you know, I feel like that's something that could have been prevented had we had some measures in place. So I have a very, very brief presentation to kind of explore the conversation, to explore how other parts of the world have guardrails and what we can do about that. So currently, here are 2 pictures of our train stations. We have 72nd Street and 96th Street here. 72nd Street obviously is the most narrow one of the 2. I don't like standing at the edge anymore, ever. And 96th Street also felt a little hairy sometimes too. So this is to kind of just show you what the train station looks like on both sides, the uptown and downtown side, with both local and express line. The following image is an image that was a concept. Photo credit goes to the street blog on creating this photo concept, of creating a very basic waist level type of guardrails. I would assume this would be strategically placed and created where the doors would open. The one line has three doors, whereas the B, D, F, or most of the letter trains have 4 doors and they're much longer. So I feel like this is something that can be accommodated for us. I think this is a good starting point. All train stations are very different, so having something that reaches a ceiling might be very difficult for us to reach. But I think this is the starting point where safety measures can begin. Here is a more advanced waist level, more of like a chest level guardrail. This is in Japan. Can't quite read which station it is. No, I can't read it. I kind of know how to read Japanese, but I can't read that. This is a chest level guardrails with the doors magically open and close. Wonderful, beautiful setup. And obviously it's a mix of an outdoor, indoor setup. Here's another idea. Not sure how this will fit into our train system, but this is something that's happening across the other side of the world. And this is a picture from Delhi, India. Pardon the image blurriness, but I found it on Reddit, if I could be very honest with you. But I thought it was very interesting to see it go pretty far up and pretty far high. It's completely protected from what I can tell, and passengers get in and get out. And it seems to be a really good solution. So those are the 3 main types of protection that I've seen. The photo concept from street bloggers, that is waist level, chest level protection, that's in Japan, and full level, that's in New Delhi. And I want to open up the conversation to anyone who has an ideas, experiences, and I thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. I just want to chime in, if you don't mind, because I do know that the MTA, and Andrew, you could speak to this. I think in February, the MTA had launched some kind of pilot at Times Square station, I believe, because I saw that in the New York Times, that they had selected 3 locations, one of which would be Times Square. So could you speak to that?
Sure. I can speak to a lot of this, actually. So the MTA will be doing a test at Times Square on the 7, 3rd Avenue on the L, and Sutphin Archer on the E in Queens. There are a host of issues as to why the kind of rails that were just illustrated won't work in New York. One of the most basic is that we have lots of different car types and they don't all line up in the same way. Second is, in the case of 72nd and Broadway, I know this is the case because I've heard discussion about this at MTA. If you were to install rails, you would not have the ADA clearance by the stairways that go up to the street. It would be very, very narrow. A wheelchair could not get by those points. So we have that issue. The ones that are being tried are much heavier than the ones that William just illustrated on one of the slides. We're looking at much heavier ones, and not all of our station platforms can support the weight of these things. It would require a massive rebuilding. In fact, the MTA looked at every station, and something like only 40% of stations can take the kind of guards. So they are looking at a whole host of things, but it's the different car types and the ADA clearance that are very important, and you've got to meet the ADA clearances, obviously. But they are looking at other ways to prevent people being pushed or falling. It has picked up during COVID. We haven't had it too much in the last few weeks, which is a great thing. But there are people on the tracks. Those were people who were living there, and unfortunately, or people that were passing through cars. Yes, well, today, after committing a robbery up at East 180th Street, and one of the perps fell between cars and got killed. So there's a lot of things, a lot of issues, but we are definitely going to have a 3-station test. That's coming, that's for sure.
Andrew, can I ask a question? Because I was just running through my mind. You know, the station has a platform bed, and next to the wall of the platform bed, and I'm talking about where the rails are, is there a way to maybe put like a railing there that kind of collapses, basically, like coming from the bed, pushing up, right? That it'll rise up, and it could be, you know, hard plexi material, etc. But where it's like a pump that'll pump it up, and then it will decompress when the train leaves, where it would fit flat up against that wall bed that kind of, you know, overlaps with the platform. Have they looked at that, putting something in the bed of the rail tracks instead of putting it on the platform?
Yeah. I think that would mean that for you to accommodate what you're talking about would mean, when it was down, would mean that there would be much too wide a gap between the train and the platform if you have the space for what you're describing.
Right.
Because if that's where you're talking about putting it, that means that takes up space, which means when it's down, it's a bigger gap. I don't know that we'd meet the ADA standards, or a wheelchair would be able to navigate onto a train.
Yeah, but if the top of it is level, then that should eliminate the gap, though. You know, like.
But you had to install it, which means you had to have room for it down below.
Well, couldn't you, again, make an indentation in that section down below? That's what I'm asking you, that, like the engineer.
That presupposes that all the cars are the same, and they aren't.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
We've got several, like on the lettered lines, which is known as the B division, we've got so many different car types.
But I'm just talking in reference to our line, the IRT line, like those.
You know, we're going to look at everything because we know it's a problem and we've got to solve it. I'm not sure the traditional platform gates are the way to solve it in our 1904 system, but we're going to look at everything.
Yeah, because it's pretty scary. 72nd Street is definitely, the platform is so narrow, and we have so many people that.
Yeah, that's part of the original line. That's why it's so narrow.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for the feedback.
Sure. Rest assured, MTA is looking at all of these things.
I have a question just about the finances. I remember last time I read about it, I think the estimate was something like 6-7 billion, and you know, a fair amount for upkeep as well. I don't know if there was an update on that front, and that maybe the capital had been allocated for it, or is it still something that's TBD based on the actual technical solution?
I don't have any updates, Ben, on the cost of those, and I think it depends on how many and if it's an indoor and outdoor station and all of that.
Right.
But I will bring that back as soon as we have done some testing.
Got it. Thank you.
Sure.
I'll go ahead and start with the names. I'll go in order as I see them. Sheldon.
Thank you. Very simply, I appreciate all the information, Andrew, and all the good questions, Polly. I think that 72nd Street may be in the top 3 dangerous stations in the city. It could be number 1. The narrowness, and for 50 years, when I've been there, usually on a change of train, I am very wary of being on that platform, and anyone who isn't is putting himself in trouble. It doesn't just involve someone doing something horrendous like pushing you. It's having too many people moving and then losing balance or you know, by the crowd being pushed. So even if there can't be a total rail or total protection because of ADA and other issues, perhaps we should ask MTA to look at a partial, okay, so that most people are safe and it's ADA accessible. And it may be useful as a result of this meeting to request that it be looked into because it's so dangerous. And I think anybody who knows it won't have a problem, verifying that it is so dangerous. So just a suggestion that we should request it, okay? And we not request a specific type because we're not experts. Thank you.
Thanks, Shelley.
Thank you, Sheldon. Barbara, you're next.
Thanks. I was wondering why no one has mentioned the system that they have in Paris, where a gate actually comes down at the bottom of the steps so that nobody is allowed to enter when a train is coming into the station. And at least that would help crowds from running on and, mass. And it also closes off when there are a certain number of people on the platform. If nothing else could be done at 72nd Street, which of course we all recognize is very dangerous, I think that's something that should be looked at.
I'm not going to give you the MTA's official viewpoint on that because I don't know it, except New Yorkers like to run for trains, and New Yorkers even hold doors, which they don't do in all other places. So if they were stopped from getting down, I think it would affect throughput. And I think there would be, I just don't see the MTA doing that sort of thing, not to mention the incredible cost of installation. I'll get into it later during my report, but the capital plan is based on congestion pricing, and that's not a done deal yet.
Okay.
Thank you, Barbara. Jay, I see you next.
Yeah, I had two questions, excuse me, for Andrew. First was, you said that the MTA is considering alternative methods of preventing people from being pushed either deliberately or inadvertently off the platforms other than gates or barriers and stuff. And maybe you could give us a couple of examples. My second question is, I understand that nothing has been settled, but have there been any cost estimates done? That's my second question. And my last question, and I'm not thin-skinned, so you can tell me it's stupid, and I'm not an engineer, but has anyone ever considered just putting some poles on the platform space so that at least people who are nervous can hold on to something, which at least is a possible way to prevent you from being shoved someplace if you're holding on to something? That's my three questions.
The MTA has done preliminary estimates. It's in the billions of dollars to install these, needless to say. And as I've said, it could only be done in 40% of the stations. Many of the stations won't support the weight of the platform doors. As to the pole suggestion, other people have mentioned something like that. And when you ask me what other things are being considered, there are a host of things being considered, but I would rather let the MTA make that presentation, and I can have them at a future meeting do so, because there's a host of things that are being looked at and I don't want to represent them. So, but I absolutely will bring that back.
Okay.
Thank you, Jay.
And
Ken?
let me just emphasize that 72nd Street is one of the narrowest stations in the system. It's from the original line. And we have noted that in other stations, and you may have noticed that virtually no other station is that narrow, and all of the newer lines and the B division, which was built later, are not as narrow. So we've learned a lot since the original line. It was great and it served New York and it helped build the city, but we've learned a lot since that original line, which was City Hall up to 145th.
Thank you, Andrew. Ken, I see your hand's raised.
Okay. Yeah, I took a look at that Streets blog piece that you gave the image from, and the guy who wrote it estimated that it would cost for the low-tech gate, low gate, the red gates you showed, would be about $400 a foot. And so for, I think, 6 stations, he said it would be about 13 million, which actually is pretty reasonable when you think about some of the other estimates, which are in the billions. So I guess it depends on the design and how much technology you want to throw at it. But there's always unfortunately, anything we do in the city, there's a cost-benefit analysis. I'm wondering, William, how many incidents have there been? I definitely agree there's a perception of danger, especially at 72nd Street. But how many incidents have there been, let's say, the last 10 years or 20 years, of people actually falling under the tracks?
Yeah, well, I clearly don't have the answer for that. I have a personal story where a friend of mine passed at Grand Street, who was on his way home after a night of drinking and hit the third rail. So it's about 10 years ago. So this has been on my mind for years, since that experience that I've had. And just seeing what happened to one of our neighbors earlier this year just kind of triggered that memory back. And I wanted to at least start that conversation to see what we can do, even if we can't put railings or maybe poles. I was thinking poles just like you, Jay, or maybe we could put more seats so more people can sit rather than stand, making them less vulnerable. So I trust that Andrew and the MTA are actually thinking about it and working towards finding a real solution for 72nd Street. It seems to be the odd one here. Other stations might be a bit easier, but yeah, I don't have a number, and I don't want to have a number, meaning I don't want there to be a number to exist for us to take action. I want to be more proactive than reactive.
And let me just emphasize, service levels are very much tied to the crowding at 72nd Street. I had a meeting today with President Davey of New York City Transit, and he's very for making more service available, particularly on weekends where ridership is really high now. And the more you move through the station rapidly, the less crowded that platform will be. So that's very important.
Thank you.
But I'll definitely bring back all of the suggestions for 72nd Street.
Awesome. Thank you, Andrew. I see 2 more hands. Doug, you're next.
Yeah, thanks. I just, I realize that we've talked about this before on the Transportation Committee, but I'm glad that it's been brought up again, because in all the years that I've been, just as Shelley said, 50 years on the subway, on 72nd, and I regularly go on 96th Street, it does seem like, it's a very scary thing. And I do believe that in the future, we're going to look back and think about how ridiculous it was that we didn't have protections. And I have traveled a little bit around the world, and Bangkok stations in Thailand are also protected. But I understand these are newer systems. So right. So I do believe that great minds of MTA and engineers can figure something out. I'll just say that with new technology, new materials, there are lightweight materials, thin materials that are very, very strong and light and thin. And I just, I'm not an engineer, but I do believe that there must be some way or ways that we can mitigate people falling or being pushed. And I'm just glad we're bringing up the conversation again, even though I know it might be slightly redundant, and we have a pilot program, so eager to hear how those go. But it's good to remind all of us that we really should eventually get this solved. Thanks.
Thank you, Doug. Roberta, I see your hand is up.
I'm sorry, I'm about to lose power on my computer, but years ago when Riverside Sound was built, we got money from the developer, and the 72nd Street subway station at Broadway is very narrow because the buildings, so they couldn't widen the platform. So what they did is they lengthened it and they made it longer, but it helped for maybe 2 or 3 years, and then it got worse. But it's a very tough station because of the fact that the building lines are at either end of this, on the east and west side of the station, and the only thing they could do was make it longer going north and south, and it didn't really solve too many problems.
Yeah, I remember that. Thanks, Roberta.
Thank you, Roberta. Well, if there are no more comments from the community board, do we have anything from the community? Does anybody have their hand up? I don't even know how to read this on Zoom right now. I don't see any.
I don't see any
Q&As.
hands raised.
No. Nor anything with Q&A. Well,
all right, I just have one comment, Andrew. When you go back
Sure.
to the MTA board, can you also include 96th Street as well? Because that's another problem station that's really crowded and congested. So please have them look at that station on the IRC number 3, 2, and 1 line as well.
Absolutely. Of course, that's a wider platform with wider stairways, which is great. But yes, there are still issues.
Yeah, there's a lot of congestion issues. So I just, like I said, I just feel that there's some urgency. And as William said, we want to be proactive about this, you know, to prevent anyone from falling off the track, etc. So that's why we felt it was important to bring this to the Transportation Committee, you know, to have some dialogue and, you know, maybe do some research on alternative methods. As Doug said, there's light material when none of us are engineers, but there has to be a way that we can cost effectively put some kind of, you know, safety mechanism in place to save lives.
I agree. I think Andrew made a great point that to the extent you had more frequent service, there'd be less crowding on the platform. So more frequent service would also help mitigate this problem and also provide certain other benefits for literally every other commuter.
Absolutely. And thanks so much to the Public Safety Task Force for thinking about this. The transit system is our key, and we must keep it safe, funded, and out of crisis. And if people don't feel safe, whether it's COVID, crime, or being pushed, then it's no good. We've got to get people feeling safe and being safe.
yes, I agree. Thank you, Andrew. Before we go, I think Barbara wants to have the last word.
Yeah, I just wanted to suggest that we make a joint resolution from both committees on this, just to add weight to the importance of it.
Sure. What would you like the resolution to look like? Because we kind of talked about the possibilities and limitations of the installation of rails. What do you think the language should look like? Should it be more of we support the MTA on researching the installation, or?
We want to bring to the MTA's attention the very dangerous situation at both 72nd Street and 96th Street. And we ask them to move to seriously consider any means they can to install some sort of safety barriers on these two stations.
Explore all options, you know,
Yes.
wording to that effect.
Right.
We understand the station is from 1904, but we have
Yeah.
2022 issues that must be addressed. And safety of our riders is one of the is the most important. And people are getting either, you know, falling or getting pushed. And the platforms are narrow, and we need a solution to make this station as safe as it can be. Just words to that effect.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. I like your idea, Barbara. Before I go ahead, I see Elizabeth. You have your hand up. Go ahead, Elizabeth. Elizabeth, if you can hear me, you have your hand raised. You're ready to, when you're ready.
Let me interject. I'm not really sure what the resolution is supposed to say. Is it to explore options or to call on the MTA to do something? Because if it's calling on the MTA to do something, I think I need a lot more information. But exploring options, I total green light from me. But I think anything more than that, I don't think we have much hard information yet.
Well,
Yeah, they don't either.
on that. I think we agree on that. I think we just said that
Yeah.
it was imperative.
Again,
that
what goes in the
explore all
resolution? That's
options.
what I'm addressing.
Excuse me?
Yeah, So Barbara used the term to seriously consider installing, but we could have explore options of installing guardrails and protection, whichever language you feel most comfortable. Do you have any preference, Howard?
Yeah, I think we should call on the MTA to explore options. I don't think we should call on them to do anything. We literally know nothing about it.
I certainly was not suggesting that they do something about it.
Well, that's why I was just clarifying it.
Yeah, I didn't take it that way either, Barbara. Okay, we call on the MTA to explore options of installing guardrails at 72nd Street and 96th Street.
Or other safety measures which would prevent people from falling onto the tracks. They may have something other than guardrails. What I would say is a resolution.
I mean, there's been incidents at both of these stations recently.
Yeah, and that's why we're adopting this resolution. All I'm trying to do is try to make clear what it would say. And it would say that we call upon the MTA to explore options for preventing passengers from falling or going onto the tracks, and see what comes back. Shelley?
Thank you. Yeah, Shelley, go ahead.
You're muted.
The preamble to that should be the things that Andrew said, which give the reasons for it. The nature of the danger, with the specific asking them to explore the options being the what we're asking them to do.
I can compose something and send it to all and see if you like the wording.
Your words were excellent to begin with, so if you could repeat them or
Thank you.
Write them, that'd be great.
And I concur with what you said.
Elizabeth said she's got some tough Wi-Fi issues tonight, so she's lowering her hand.
Okay.
Second the motion.
No, Howard, you came up with a good point. I like the idea of the language of increasing safety measures because it allows the flexibility for the MTA to move forward with what is the best solution rather than holding them to one specific solution.
They know a lot more than we do. And ideally, after they look into this, they'll know even more.
I agree. So what I have here so far is we call upon the MTA to explore options to increase safety, measures, to increase safety at the 72nd and Broadway train stations, plural.
And include 96th Street as well.
Yes, 72nd Street and 96th Street train station. So this is the rough draft of the resolution, and I can work with Andrew on writing this if you like, and then we can go and vote on this next month. Great.
Do we want to add the word urgent or urgently somewhere in that resolution?
We call upon the MTA to urgently explore options, or
something like that.
Yeah, sure. I can.
As opposed to our usual resolutions, which are not urgent.
I'll just highlight that.
If our usual resolutions are urgent and this one isn't,
why don't we say to take immediate steps to investigate what can be done at 72nd and 96th Street 1, 2, 3 line stations to prevent passengers from falling or being pushed onto the tracks. And we can, we'll give the historical, the fact 72nd is from the original line. It's very narrow and all of that.
Yep. Sounds good.
Like it brief and to the point.
I concur.
Can we add some? I'm sorry, I'm speaking out of order, but can we add something in there that makes it a little emphasizes life safety, preserving life, because it should jump out of the page a little bit. We're literally trying to save life and limb. That's so preventing someone from falling. Yes, that's exactly what we're doing. But I think we should be explicit about the fact that we're trying to save people from getting killed and dismembered.
I agree. I was trying to write and listen at the same time. Cool. I like what Andrew said as the resolution. If you can repeat that one more time, and then we can do a vote.
I don't know if I can. I was going to compose it and send it out.
Okay, I got the gist of it, that we call upon the MTA to take immediate steps to explore options of increasing safety measures at the 72nd and 96th Street Broadway train station.
Second
Can I ask,
motion.
have there been any accidents of late at either station?
Thought we just seconded the motion and we're going to vote, not take more questions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the answer is yes.
Okay, so then why don't we say that in the resolution?
Okay. Well, we
Call
can
the
put that in
question.
call a question. So, how do we do joint meetings? Do we do transportation and public safety, or is it one big vote?
You take one vote of the joint committees, and as long as you have a quorum of one of the committees, then you're good to go. And then you do a separate of non-committee who's not on either committee.
Okay, great. All right, so all in favor of the resolution, please raise your hand.
I'm sorry,
virtually.
William. I think Irena is trying to speak.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I just was reiterating, Andrew, what you said, I think 5 or 7 minutes ago, which is that you would draft the resolution based on all of the comments that you received and then circulate it so we're all comfortable with it. And that we were just going to vote on the sort of, the word is escaping me, but anyway.
The concept.
Boilerplate.
Yes, exactly. So never mind.
Yeah, it's really not appropriate to vote on basically an idea. And if Andrew's going to circulate a resolution, we should know what we're voting on, even though we all seem to be in agreement. Why not have it circulated, take comments, do a final version, and we can present that. We don't have to have a committee vote. We can present it at full board for a vote.
Yeah, I think we have to have a committee vote, don't we?
Yes, and I think that Andrew said everything we wanted to hear and agree to, and other people added things. And if you go to the videotape, you can draw them out. Said already. It's just not on paper.
I've been doing this for many decades, and it's the practice of our committee to reach a consensus as to what we want to say, and then for somebody, usually me, to draft it and circulate it. And I can't remember a time when there hasn't been a consensus around the draft after it's been amended maybe once or twice to take into account people's, what people want to say. If somebody votes for it tonight and gets Andrew's draft and thinks it's horrible and wants to change his vote, we can deal with it at the time. But I think it's unlikely that will happen.
So I think the question has been called.
Question has been called. All in favor of the resolution presented by Andrew and myself on calling the MTA to take immediate steps to explore options to increase safety measures at 72nd and 96th Street Broadway train station, please raise your hand virtually. If you cannot, please say it out loud. Let me raise my hand too so I can see it. All right, I got 2, 4, well, actually participants, 22. I'll wait another 3 seconds to see if there's any more hands. And great. Can I have the host lower all hands, please? Or everyone just lower hands. Wonderful. All right, all opposed to the resolution, please raise your hand. Members only. Okay. I'll wait another 3 seconds. Okay. All abstaining, please raise your hand. Abstaining with cause, please raise your hand. Great. All non-committee members, please raise your hand if you're in favor of the resolution. Let's see, 1, or please say out loud. Wait another 3 seconds. Okay, thank you. Go ahead and lower your hand mark. All non-committee members opposed to the resolution? All non-committee members. Non-committee members abstaining with cause. Wonderful. The resolution passes 22-000 by joint members and non-committee members 1-000.
William, it was 14-000, not 22.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
22 was the total number of participants. 14 was the people who raised their hands.
I am so glad you double checked.
It's still unanimous.
Still unanimous.
Wondering where that number came from.
You know, I got to get new glasses, I guess.
By the way,
it's wonderful.
Abstaining for cause eligible. That you're not, if you're ineligible, you're not abstaining, because an abstaining is a soft no. Ineligible is a non-vote.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you. All right. I hand the meeting over back to Andrew and Howard.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Public safety task
much.
force members, public safety task force members are welcome to stay. I know I am, because I'm part of the transportation committee. So please stay for a wonderful meeting.
Thank you.
Barbara, I can probably hang on for like another probably 20 minutes, sounds like. So I'll message you.
Don't worry about it. I'm fine.
Okay, so before we get to the meat of our meeting, I'm going to give some MTA updates now. There's quite a bit of things happening, as you can imagine. As everyone by now has heard, unless you're living in a cave somewhere, the mask mandate has been lifted. Masks are optional now. Many folks are still continuing to wear them, but the usage was going down from the high 90s, well, the mid 90s, where we were, down to the 70s, and it was down in like 30 some odd percent. So it made sense. People weren't doing it anyway. People obviously feel safer. I personally can't wait till the new booster shot is. I've got an appointment for it. I think everybody's going to try to get them. The appointments are really hard to come by. People are obviously voting with their feet. Our ridership is up. In fact, on the Monday, well, on the Tuesday after Labor Day, we had 3.5 million subway riders. It's like the highest since pre-COVID. It was quite great to see. You may have also heard that the Metro card machines that have become so familiar to everyone are being phased out. That is happening in the beginning of, or the end of 2022 and the beginning of 2023. It will take quite a while as they phase in the Omni machines and phase out the Metro card machines. Everybody and their mother now is holding a press conference outside City Hall to bash congestion pricing. Well, folks that are doing this, and everyone's entitled to their opinion, obviously, are not saying how they would substitute that amount of money for the MTA's capital program. And that amount of money is what is really necessary in order to repair cars, signals, stations, make stations accessible. There's just so many things that need to be done in the system. Congestion pricing will improve our air quality. It will make people who continue to drive have an easier time of it. And it will allow the MTA to bond money and produce over $1 billion every year towards the $52 billion capital program. And just to give you an idea of how important the capital program is, just a couple of weeks ago, the Long Island Railroad completed its rebuilding, or building, I should say, of a new mainline third track from Floral Park to Mineola. It is going to go as far as Hicksville. This will allow reverse peak commuting on the Long Island Railroad, and beginning in December will allow the Long Island Railroad to serve both Penn Station and Grand Central. I refuse to call it Grand Central Madison, which is what they're calling it, because that implies you can only get out at Madison Avenue. I've seen the new Long Island Railroad terminal. It is 17 flights under the existing Grand Central. It is really deep. It will take 7 minutes to get to the street from your platform, so you have to figure that in. the Long Island Railroad is splitting service to all branches so that it will serve both. But the downside is if you usually had a train that went right to Atlantic Terminal in downtown Brooklyn, you will most likely have to change at Jamaica to get there. It will be more of a shuttle service from Jamaica to Brooklyn. There will be a lot more of them, but it will not be a one seat or an across the platform transfer, except for a few peak hour trains. So that is a downside. But this kinds of major capital work and the money to do this, to build the tunnels, to build new cars. We have lots of new cars coming for both Long Island Railroad and Metro North and the subways. This is why the congestion pricing plan is really important. It's not a suburb versus city issue because the Long Island Railroad and Metro North are also part of the MTA's capital plan and will get lots of money from this capital program. There is also a new map being tried, and if anyone has seen it in various stations, it is a remake of the old Vignelli subway map. I'm not a huge fan of it, but I have met with them and made a few improvements to it. I think you have to be really up close and see what line is stopping where because it uses all lines on a trunk line. So for instance, on the Lexington line, you'll see the 4, 5, and 6 in individual lines. And like on the BMT Broadway line, you're going to see an NQRW. So you have to really look close to see which is stopping at what station. But they have made some improvements on it, and it seems to fare well in public rating tests that they've done and favorability. People seem to like it, so we will see how this goes. And the last thing I will say is this capital plan will also extend the 2nd Avenue Q line from 96th Street up to 125th Street. It will curve westward to meet Metro North's 125th Street station at Park Avenue. So it will mean service to East Harlem residents who have not had subway service since the old 3rd Avenue L was torn down. So a lot of good things happening. It is a political season and everybody is taking sides on congestion pricing. Lee Zeldin has said categorically he will not allow it. So we will see what happens. Staten Island representatives have said they don't have any service. Well, this could give them some service, this capital program. So they do have the Staten Island Railway, of course, and they have a free ferry. But in any event, there's a lot happening and you got to keep tuned because this is changing by the day. I hope Governor Hochul sticks to her points about the importance of congestion pricing because I think it will make a huge difference. And that's it, unless anyone has any questions.
Jay, and then I have a question.
Sure.
Jay, then Ken. I'll go last.
Yeah, I don't want to start a discussion on congestion pricing, but I just had a quick question. My understanding is that the basic identification system is a photographic system of license plates, kind of what they're doing with tolls now. And it just a yes or no answer, Andrew.
Sure.
Is there accommodation being made for Manhattan residents who live above the congestion zone, who are on their way to and from other places like through the Lincoln Tunnel or the Midtown Tunnel?
Yeah, I can answer that, but I can't answer it with a one sentence answer. So accommodations have been made for folks that live within the congestion zone, south of 60th Street, not for those who live above the zone. However, they are looking, it is Easy Pass readers, and they are looking at what I hope they finalize, which is if you're coming down, for instance, the Henry Hudson Parkway into the West Side Highway, and your destination is the Lincoln Tunnel, there will be a route to go to the tunnel, which will give you credit for having paid it and refund it to you the moment you go and you enter the tunnel. They are talking about doing that for the Hugh Carey or Brooklyn Battery Tunnel, where if you came up West Street, exited into the so-called congestion zone to get to the Holland Tunnel, but went right into the Holland Tunnel, your congestion fee would be refunded. So there is talk about that. Jay.
What about the opposite? Let's say you're coming back from New Jersey through the Lincoln Tunnel and you're going uptown to our district. How would that?
The Traffic Mobility Review Board, or TMRB, that is going to decide exemptions. They are looking at, one of the possibilities would be if you paid either a Port Authority bridge or tunnel toll or an MTA bridge or tunnel toll, you would get credit towards the congestion fee. In the case of New Jersey, because I think it's something like $14.75 round trip, the $9, if there aren't too many exemptions and the fee ends up being in the $9 range for a private car, you have the thing all paid for virtually, so you wouldn't get billed twice. But that depends on the TMRB. We have no idea what they're going to do. There'll be tremendous pressure on them.
Shall I go?
Yes.
Yeah.
Ken and then Polly.
Sure.
Andrew, just on the timetable, what hurdles still need to be cleared for congestion pricing? Are we still looking at late 23, early 24? And what could happen to derail the whole thing? No pun intended.
Sure. I believe that is the current timetable. They're talking late 23 or early 24. What could derail it is an election in November. Too many exemptions, which would mean it would not bring in the money that we really need. There's a host of things that could happen between now and then. But here's hoping that it remains on track. It is really vital for the MTA. I wouldn't want to think how we would get that amount of money unless the state and feds, I keep quoting this. We have 40% of the mass transit riders in the country. We get 16% of the federal funding. What's wrong with that picture?
Polly, then Irena, and then Doug.
Yeah, Andrew, I have a question about the Omni card, because you said that it would be phased in approximately the end of this year. Will there be some kind of educational piece or link on the website on the card? Are we using a phone, a card? Can you explain how that system will work?
Yes, all of the discounts that are currently available on MetroCard are to be available on Omni, and I'm hopeful even a few more, perhaps. There will be an instruction. There will be something on the MTA's website to explain how to use Omni, how to set your phone up for it if you want to use a mobile device, and all of that. Tapping is so much faster than sliding, especially in a bus where you have to wait for the thing to digest the card and then spit it back up to you. That's like 4 or 5 seconds. Tapping, if you've seen anyone with their smart device tap on an SBS bus, it's amazing, it's fast. So yes, there will be instructional use on Omni, and it will eventually also be available on Metro North and Long Island Railroad as well.
All right, so you mentioned tapping with the phone.
And Path, by the way, and Path.
Okay. Oh, great, but also everybody's phone doesn't have that feature where it can tap. So will there be something else that they could use in lieu
They can,
of
but
the phone?
you can purchase right now from a Dwayne Reed's or Walgreens an Omni card. There will be an MTA issued one as well. You just tap, and then you can have it linked to a bank account or credit card account, and you can just have it refill when it gets low.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
I actually had only 2 questions, but now Polly, I have another one. So for corporate employees that have the transit program, the tax deductible transit program, what happens to that Metro card? Can they use that in an Omni machine? Can they tap that card?
No.
Or will they get a new card?
They will when it's.
I'm talking about
close to being
Transit
phased.
Works. I think you're familiar
Sure.
with Transit Works.
Yeah, sure. Everybody will be converted to Omni. Arena.
Okay, fine. Very quickly, I have a question, and then I have 2 questions. So the second question is congestion pricing 24 hours, or does it end after rush hour? And then the second question is, how much will the Penn Station subway station get funds as part of the redevelopment of Penn Station, as part of the redevelopment plan? Will money either come from the state or the developers to the subway, in addition to the railroad?
Okay, so the first question was the hours of congestion pricing. The main hours are Monday to Friday, 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. I assume there will be lesser rates at other times and on weekends. And of course, the rate varies by how many axles, if you're a single person car, if you're a truck, you know, all of those sort of things. Will the Penn Station subway station get a part of the Penn Station redevelopment money? I think entrances will. I don't believe the stations are. It's likely going to go into the New Jersey Transit, Long Island Railroad, and Amtrak portion of the station.
Okay, well, that's a conversation we should have at some point, because that's not fair.
Well, you can also question, as many have, is it fair that some of these city blocks are going to be torn down and people that have lived there forever? And can we fill up those office buildings?
I'm totally not in support of 10 skyscrapers when most of Midtown right now is practically empty, but that's another story.
Exactly.
Doug?
Yeah, what I heard, and I don't know if this is within the final plan, which I know is not approved yet, on congestion pricing, that anywhere along the west and the east boundaries, north to south of Manhattan, are outside of the zone. In other words, if someone was driving down 9A and went along the West Side Highway all the way into Brooklyn, they're outside of the zone. And if same is true on the FDR. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, good. And then regarding the tap thing, I just wanted most of the new credit cards now have a tap feature in addition, so it seems to be working. This was just an observation, and while we have you on here, Andrew, I regularly use the MTA app. I've downloaded it. I've even, it stopped working so functionally. And I've certainly gotten all the updates, and I've reinstalled it. And it used to show really accurately and really simply when a bus was coming, the number 104 and the 7. And now it's got this wonky thing where it kind of it doesn't show the latest bus. They've changed something about it. Do you know anything about this? Because it's not working as well as it used to. And it's
Let me ask you this. Are you using Bus Time?
I'm using the MTA.
Or you're using My MTA?
My MTA.
Go to Bus Time. It's far superior for the buses.
Okay, I will do that.
If you tell it, if you let your phone know, let your phone use your wherever you are. If you give it that permission, you can also touch nearby stops, and it'll show you where the nearest stop is and all the buses that are coming.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, the MTA, My MTA is from the MTA. I don't know, is Bus Time a third party, or is it?
No, it's from the MTA as well. It's also from the MTA.
I remember that there was a push to, I thought My MTA covers all surface and rail, and they were encouraging people to use that because it's all in one place, but it just stopped working so well. And William, thank you. You just texted me the link, so thank you for that.
Bustime.mta.info.
Got it.
Andrew, I just have a question about the legality of this. I thought this was enacted in legislation that it had to happen. It's just a question of the details.
Are we talking about congestion pricing?
Yes, we're talking about congestion pricing, absolutely. So I don't understand.
It is state law right now.
Yeah, I understood it was state law. So am I misunderstanding something?
No, but we have an election in November, and we don't know what's going to happen. What the composition of the Senate and the
So the answer is a legislation can be enacted. It could also be rescinded. Is that really the issue?
That's the issue.
Okay.
But also the legislation doesn't say when it can happen. So it could happen, in 20 years or never.
Right. Okay. Thank you for the clarification. Jay and Barbara's hands up on this again. Do you both have questions?
I have a very quick question. Andrew, on the conversion from Metro cards to Omni. And I speak as someone who has a senior discount Metro card. Will I be getting a card, a substitute card?
Yes, you're going to have the senior discount Omni card.
But it's a card.
It's a card.
Okay.
Because you're going to tap it.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
And Barbara?
Yeah, I have so many questions on congestion pricing, but I'm not going to bore you with any of them tonight. What I'm really wondering is, when can we get in somebody, not that you're not an expert on this, you certainly are, Andrew, but somebody who can really answer all the questions, like what happens when you happen to live just below the zone and things like that. I have so many friends who were asking me questions like that, and I'm in favor of congestion pricing, but it needs to work for everybody. So
Agreed. But we don't actually know what the final product that the TMRB is going to recommend is going to look like. So it's hard to, until they've reached their decisions, it's hard to get anyone to speak, So
you have no idea really when it's going to be, maybe like half a year from now.
I think we'll know a lot more after the election.
Yeah. Okay. Good point. Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
And William, I think that's it. William?
Yeah. Thank you. I just had one quick question about the Omni card. Is it similar to what Chicago has for the Venture card? The Venture card is a physical credit card. You can refill it
very
from
similar.
the computer. Okay, cool. So it's just going to be a refillable card, and consumers will still have the same option as pay as you go, monthly. Will those services still exist?
Oh, absolutely. All of those types will still be available.
Okay, cool. That's all. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. Why don't we move on? We have a few petitions for consent.
Revocable consents, yeah.
Right, revocable consents. 20-30 West End Avenue, Abraham Joshua Heschel School. Is someone here?
Yes.
Hey, Barbara, I'm sorry, Barbara, I gotta jump off, so I'm gonna transfer control to you. Thank you, guys.
Courtney.
Welcome. Why don't you describe what the—
Thank you, Courtney.
Thank you.
Yes. I do have my engineer with me. His name is Kyle Goodwin. I believe he's on as an attendee. He'll be presenting. If somebody could move him to a spot where he could present, I would appreciate it. I'll give you a little bit of background on the school, and
What's his name again?
He's on as Alan Shat. He's on under my name. His name is Kyle Goodwin, but he's under the attendees under my name.
Hi, everyone. Kyle from Stonefield here.
So I'll give you just a little bit of a background about the school. The Abraham Joshua Heschel School was founded 40 years ago. It's a Jewish day school that currently has about 1,000 students and 300 faculty and staff. Our Bollards project has actually been completed. So I'm not, and I'm not quite sure exactly how it happened that we bypassed this board. If we did anything wrong, I certainly apologize. I think there was a miscommunication with the I guess the transportation authority, but the Bollards project has been in the makings for about 5 years. It was completed about a year ago, and the main idea was to create a level of protection for school kids and adults entering and leaving our building in a time where anti-Semitic activities are increasing, and people feel and people like to, our community certainly likes to feel safe. So it's been a high priority of our board for many years, and we were lucky to get what we thought were all the approvals, but obviously we somehow bypassed this board, of which I do apologize.
So let me clarify, the bollards are in?
Yes, so the project is actually complete, yes, and the bollards are there. And as I had mentioned, I'm sure Kyle will repeat, is that we thought we had all the approvals that we needed. I can't pretend to be an expert at knowing all the city approvals I needed. We kind of relied on our experts, And my apologies for missing that, for missing this very important committee.
Great. Well, since they're in already, maybe we could just have a brief description of what's there, since they've already been there and they've been there a year.
Let me hand it off to Kyle then, and he could describe the bollards and the process that we went through to put in the bollards.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, just a point of clarification. There are no images available for the board
We have plans. Yes, we have.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
Again, a few images. We don't need to. We don't need to hear the whole story of the history of the bollards. Again, since they're in already, simply showing us what's there and telling us what's there will be sufficient.
Before we go further, could I please just get the spelling of the second Alan's name, because
Sure.
I'm not finding it on the list of attendees.
I'll let Kyle spell his name. Go ahead, Kyle.
Sure. My name is Kyle Goodwin, spelled Kyle. Goodwin, Goodwin. And I'm here on behalf of the Heschel School. I'm with Stonefield Engineering and Design. We were the civil engineer of record. That's Stonefield Engineering and Design.
Thank you. It was just for the minutes. Thanks a lot.
Sure. So, as Alan had mentioned, these have been installed. This project, I believe, was completed last summer. So as far as the approval process, we went to the NYC DOT, and we were guided by the NYC DOT's Revocable Consent Unit. We actually appeared before this community board's Public Design Commission, the PDC, and we got approval there. So I'm not exactly entirely sure, like Alan said, how that got circumvented. But I will share my screen briefly here and show the plans. So we were to replace the entire sidewalk, and here are the bollards. You can see them. They essentially are pretty much as far as they can be out towards the sidewalk. This design was pretty much dictated by the NYC DOT's Revocable Consent Unit and in conjunction with the NYPD's Counterterrorism Unit. So kind of between those two agencies, that's pretty much how we ended up with this design. And you can see it goes up West End Avenue and then back down 61st Street and then connects over here. As far as details, I guess we don't have any details on here, but they're 4-foot high bollards. They have a silver anodized steel covering on it. And again, they were also dictated by the NYC DOT. We really didn't have any choice as far as aesthetic goes. And we did go through the PDC and got their aesthetic input. Didn't really end up having to change much from their approval. So,
do you have any photos?
I do not have any photos of the finished product available right now. I'm not sure if Alan, maybe you have some.
I don't, not right now. I could.
Let me see if I can find
if anybody goes to Google Street View and put in 61st and West End Avenue, about half the bollards are there, the ones along West End.
So that's true, they are there, but they're not the finished product. And what I mean by that is there's a steel, anodized steel cover, stainless steel cover that goes on top of them that you will not see on Google. So it's a little bit misleading as to the finished product. But I am looking. Sorry, go ahead.
Are they similar to the bollards around the JCC?
I do not know the answer to that, but I can say they're similar to bollards that are placed in Times Square around, in and around Times Square. There's a couple buildings that have a similar project that they've completed. And we were actually told to use the same specification as those. But I apologize. I'm looking to see if I can pull up a photo for the board here.
While we're waiting for the photo, Alan, who instructed you to come to the community board?
We received a notice.
We received an email from an associate director on the community board. I mean, I could give you their name.
I did.
Oh,
Jesse.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
Jesse. Oh,
yeah.
Jesse.
So
how did that
basically,
happen?
DOT was reaching out to our general mail. Apparently, as you guys know, we switched our emails. We had CB7.org. They were continually reaching out to the old emails, and I guess eventually they came to our current emails. So it still required a recommendation from the CB7, which I couldn't give because you had not heard it. So that's why they had to still come
Thank you.
before us. Now, what they did was that I requested to extend the commenting period to give us time to provide them with that recommendation.
Excellent.
Wait, so
Thank
they
you for the
need
background.
they need a resolution from us tonight? Is that what you're saying?
Not tonight. It's scheduled for after full board. So it's an adopted vote.
But why? It's already in.
Do they have the irrevocable consent? Do they have it?
Yes, we do have a
Yes.
revocable consent agreement in place at this
So we're
point.
voting on nothing. It's moot.
Yeah, these are in and it's moot. So I think,
I think we should take it off the agenda and move.
yeah, I think we could wrap
Why,
this up
why
pretty
would
quickly.
why wouldn't we endorse it though? Why wouldn't we just endorse
Exactly.
it anyway?
Because it doesn't matter.
It doesn't,
Exactly.
it's
No,
there.
I don't agree. I think the community, I think that the Heschel School,
Well, yeah,
I think,
I-
let me finish my point, please, Jay. I
Okay,
think that
I
the
was gonna
Heschel
agree with you.
School, I think that the Heschel School and the community surrounding the school should know that the community board shares their concern about security and that we voted in favor. I mean, why not? I don't understand. I know that they're in, but it's a way of expressing our support and our and that we empathize with their concerns about security. And I mean, these bollards are in other places around our district, and at least they know that, and we appreciate that it's not their fault that DOT was sending public notice to the wrong email address, but I think it's important to share, to let the school know that the community board stands with them and supports this, the bollards.
You're right, Arena.
Yep.
Yeah,
Why don't
we've
we
done
call
it-
the
we've done it
question?
before, too.
Call the question.
Yeah. Why don't we call the question? All those in favor of affirming the revocable consent to have the bollards in front of the school, please, you can stop the screen share so we can more easily vote. Please raise their hand.
So that's 10 in favor.
Okay, is there anyone opposed? Or anyone abstaining? I didn't think so. Okay, it's 10 to 0. And Irena, that was a good point. There's no harm in reaffirming something that we view as a positive thing.
Yeah, and you know, it's a very sad comment on our.
It really
community
is,
as a whole
Barbara.
that
It
we
really
have to
is.
do
It just
something
breaks
like
my
this.
heart.
But if they feel that they need that protection, by the way, this is very similar, Kyle, to the JCC, which is just a block from where I live. It's, how could you say no? I mean, you don't even have to think about it, so.
Can
How
I make a
are
comment?
non-members?
Oh,
yeah.
Non-members.
That's what I was going to ask if I could vote.
Absolutely, non-members in favor. Yeah, absolutely, thank you.
I'm in favor. I raise my hand.
Okay.
too.
I see 3. Any non-members opposed or abstaining? Great. Okay, we have, yep.
I have a comment.
Thank you, Ken. Yep.
So I was going to raise my hand, but I didn't want to be included in the no votes or whatever. I mean, obviously this was put in as an anti-terrorism device, but it's much more likely that a car would jump the curb, as it did in the Bronx last week, and hit a woman and impaled her on a fence, and she died. Turned out that car had about 30 some speeding violations. So it's a great, these bollards are great pedestrian safety measures.
thank you all so much. I really appreciate your support. And thank you for everything that you do in keeping the city safe and keeping it moving.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say something else, if I may.
Sure.
I'm very glad that we did vote on this, and I appreciate it. And it is a sad commentary that we live in a world like this. And my understanding was when the JCC was built that it was not only the NYPD counterterrorism unit, but it was actually the Department of Homeland Security that instructed them to put it there. Did the Heschel School speak at all with DHS, or was this all NYPD and DOT?
Well, this is partly funded by the Department of Homeland Security. They have a small amount of funding, about $100,000 of funding from them.
Well, I'm sad that we need it, but I'm very glad that you have it.
Thank you so much.
If I could belabor just one quick point about this, because I was at that corner on the first day of public school handing out flyers for, you know, the parent information. This is a particularly dangerous corner for traffic because it's kind of where Midtown meets the Upper West Side, and there are like half a dozen schools within the immediate area. And I was sort of wishing that the same bollards were on the Riverside Center side of the street as they are on the Heschel side of the street. And by the way, you folks in this committee may remember Lourdes Camacho, who is an Amsterdam Houses resident and is now a school safety officer. And my goodness, she jumps into the middle of traffic with those white gloves and stops SUVs in their tracks, which couldn't be more important in this particular corner with all the schools up 61st Street. So this is a great place for this, even if it is lamentable that what made the first impetus for it. Thanks.
Thank you, Mark. Okay, we have one more. We have two more revocable consents. The next one is 68 West 83rd Street. There's a petition to the DOT from Carolyn. I'm going to mess this up. Scheltinga to construct, maintain, and use a proposed fenced-in area, including planters and steps. Is she here or a representative? Anyone in connection with that consent? Okay, why don't we move on to the third, and if someone comes for that. The third and last one is secondary street naming, Monkey's Way. This is on West 108th Street and Amsterdam Avenue on the northeast corner in order of Rafael Delgado, also known as Monkey. Is someone here from?
I'm here.
Okay.
Hi, thank you all. So it's been a long meeting, so I really appreciate your time. I have a little presentation so you can be introduced to Monkey if I could share my screen. You're able to share your screen. Thank you.
Really quickly, I'm sorry, before you begin, Doug, I noticed that Caroline von Scheltinga is as an attendee, so if someone can bring her up, so Caroline can be available for.
Great, and we'll do it right after this.
Okay, so I'll be quick. I'm representing my neighbors who have just recently lost a real important fixture of our neighborhood, whose name is Rafael Delgado. He grew up on 108th Street and he served in Vietnam. And he, despite his challenges because of his PTSD, he was a very important person and contributor to the life on between 106th and 110th Streets on Amsterdam Avenue. He worked for the Columbus Amsterdam bid. He was outside every day helping to keep the streets clean, saying good morning to everybody that passed by, helping the elderly, helping people with children, and just being available for his friends and his neighbors. He recently passed away. The loss of his presence is deeply felt. And so the neighbors got together and asked to present to you all this secondary street naming proposal. And we believe that it's important because he's representative of an underrepresented group and a very important group of Puerto Ricans in this part of Manhattan. He also is representative of Vietnam veterans who have served also in this neighborhood. So I don't know if you have any questions for me, but I shortened it because I know we're running, late. I don't know how you guys really do this, but I can stop my screen. I can send this to you all, my little PDF.
Jennifer, are you familiar with the requirements for us to consider it, including 100 petition signatures?
We sent the petition signatures.
Oh, great.
in.
Okay. I just want to make sure.
Yeah, and that's included in my PDF. So I'm more than happy to share it with you.
Okay. Any questions, comments from Jay, then Irena, then Ken, then Barbara?
Is the intent to name this secondary naming just Monkey's Way?
Yeah, that was
Mr. Delgado's.
Well, we can have a discussion about that, but we like the idea of Monkey's Way because it fits his personality.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, but we can discuss. It could
to
be
all of you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
A person very worthy of recognition.
Right. So it could be Rafael Delgado Monkey's Way.
Yeah, I would suggest just simply Monkey's Way. Nobody will ever know who it is that you would be honoring. So I would strongly urge.
Well, we would know, right? In the neighborhood,
be included.
Absolutely, I agree. Thank you so much for your comment. If there's type 4, I think we didn't want to overload it with type.
Okay, let's see, Irena and then Ken.
Yeah, Jay actually touched on my concern about the use of Monkey Way. And I think if the purpose of this recognition is to recognize a veteran and a community person who is treasured by the people in the neighborhood, that the full name should be, if we were to vote in support, that this person's full name should be on the street sign and not a nickname. I'm just not comfortable with that at all. And I wondered whether the Bloomingdale Association and some of the other associations and tenant groups in this neighborhood has also signed off on this, and is the intent to have the entire area from 108 to 110th, which I think is quite a long stretch. And there are probably people living between 108 and 110 that have no idea who Mr. Delgado was. And so is the intent to have the sign on the block where he lived, or are you requesting the signage on every block from 108 to 110? Thank you.
I'll go backwards. Our request is for the northeast corner of Amsterdam and 108th Street.
Thank you.
And we have spoken with the Columbus Amsterdam bid and another, at least that in terms of community organizational support. I'm with El Taller Latino Americano, and who's been servicing the neighborhood since the mid-90s, and they're completely behind this as well. And I agree that we will put his name, but we would also like to include Monkey because that's deeply significant for the neighborhood.
Can I just add that if those entities have expressed support or endorsement, that we could also get letters from them for the record?
Of course.
Justy. So, so that at least if we get, if this were to get approved and the signage was installed and then people say that they, hadn't been informed, we know that the associations have notified their constituents.
Yes.
That this request was made, and that these associations, on behalf of their membership, approved.
Perfect.
Would be my suggestion.
Irena, I just emailed the petition that she submitted to the committee, and it's also on the drive.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And
yeah, I have a question and then a statement. Is Peter Arnson involved in this?
I've
at all?
discussed it with Peter.
And how does he feel about it?
He's, of course, behind it.
Okay.
We wouldn't be here without that, at least that level of community support, not just the neighbors.
Right. Okay. I will probably vote against this, and nothing against Mr. Delgado. I just think for a number of reasons, I think these signs are confusing for visitors to the city. They're beginning to clutter up. We're starting to get them on many corners. In a way, it's kind of unfair because we have thousands of deserving people in our district, and we award these on a first come, first served basis. Somebody gets to us, then it's basically up there. It's supposed to come down in 5 years, but I've never heard of one coming down. So they're basically up there in perpetuity. And I think they're just better ways to remember important people in our community, as opposed to using public funds and public street signs to remember them.
Well, sometimes people do public service and they're not recognized in their own lifetime, and this is a way to do it. And of course we appreciate what you're saying about visitors, but it's also for the people who live here. It's our home, and he was a part of our home. And in Manhattan, as we all know, home is beyond our apartments. Home is in our streets.
Right. I'm just suggesting there are other ways to signal that than put up a road sign.
Have we finalized what the sign would say? Would it be Rafael Delgado Way? Would it be Rafael Delgado and then in parentheses, Monkey Way? Or would it just be Monkey Way? Has this been finalized yet?
I can suggest that we can say Rafael Monkey Delgado Way.
And Monkey would not be in parentheses?
It should be in parentheses.
In parentheses.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Sure.
I've never designed a sign, so thank you for your punctuation.
Don't the street numbers remain even?
They do.
Yeah.
Yep.
This is a secondary sign. It's not the original sign.
So to Ken's concern, the street numbers and names still remain.
Yes.
Well, that's true, Jay, but when you're quickly looking, let's say you're going by on a bike or a car and you're looking for a street name and you see Monkey Delgado and you're like, what's that? And sometimes, as we know, street signs disappear and all that's left is the secondary name. That's happened.
Ken, how come you didn't mention a bus in those possible methods of travel?
I will now mention bus.
Actually, it's kind of interesting. The DOT put, if you notice on the avenues, huge signs for the cross streets, feeling that the small signs on the lampposts on the corner are insufficient for drivers, primarily drivers, because they're going faster than anyone else. So the DOT, by doing that, is implicitly saying that it's hard to read those signs on the street corners. And so the more visual clutter that's there, the more difficult it becomes even more difficult. Barbara, Doug, and then Mark.
I love secondary street namings, street signs. I think that they are sort of like historical markers, but with no information. And if you're inspired by the name, you can look it up. And I've done that numerous times. And I think, it's just a lovely tribute to a small community that loved this man. I don't think we should be against this. I think this is wonderful.
Thanks, Barbara. Doug, and then Mark, and then Peter.
Yeah, first of all, I'm glad that we invoked Peter Arnston's name, because I also had the question. I see now he's been promoted and he has his hand up. So I'd be very interested to hear what he says, because he is a regular member of our community board. And also a minor suggestion that, and again, it's it'd be your sign here, our sign, but it seems that monkey should be in quotes, not parens, because you're Monkey is his nickname.
Yeah, I think you're right, Doug.
Correct.
Yeah.
Indeed, good point.
It's not pejorative then. Yes.
Sure, thanks.
Mark and then Peter.
Thanks. So I think you've handled the pejorative aspect that was in the Q&A from a person named Reed Perron. So I thank you for that. The part that I would add is that while I'm not sure if 108th is the block on which Mr. Monkey resided.
Delgado.
Mr. Delgado, thank you. I don't have it in front of me. I'm not sure if that's where he resided, but I do like the location because down 108th Street, between Amsterdam and Columbus, of course, is Anibal Avila's Park, and I apologize for my bad pronunciation, who was also a person, I believe, of Puerto Rican descent, and also who I think we lost him in the Vietnam War. So there's a certain nice synergy between a memorial to a person who went to the war and didn't come back, and a person who went to war and did come back, but with some of that trauma and still part of his community. So on those two bases, I would, even though I'm not in your committee, I would be happy to vote for it at full board. A recommendation that if you haven't done so already, you reach out to Gil Taub, who is of the Bloomingdale Neighborhood History Association. I bet you a good beer he already knows who Mr. Delgado is. And he is the person who keeps a running list of who, as Barbara was saying, how do you look up somebody and what it was that they did to earn the secondary street name. He has a running list, and it's a great thing.
Mark, his list is not running anymore. I'm sorry to report.
Oh no.
Well,
then maybe we should take it up.
He's okay, but he's not able to continue his service to the city. And there's Gail actually has a bill before the city council to get the city to take over doing this. Whether that's going to happen, I don't know. But
well, maybe we should do it. Okay, but anyway, it should be a part of that list whenever it gets reconstituted.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Great. Peter and then Shelley.
Hi. Rafael was quite a character. And Jennifer has done a great job of researching Anabella Vilas down at the playground further down, and she's put together a huge project called Good Neighbors. I recommend that you all come up and visit it on 108th, right across from Booker T. Washington Middle School. She and I have talked about ways to provide more information about Raphael's life, because street corner naming is limited considerably. And he had quite a story. So I won't go into the details, but feel free to ask me sometime when I've got some time. Anyway, I would recommend that we go ahead with this. Thank you.
Shelley?
Yeah, I support this for three reasons. One, because this is when I saw the picture, I knew exactly who it was. A neighborhood person, neighborhood character who gave service to his neighborhood and previously to our country. Second, because he was a presence in the area for a long time. And the fact that people who knew him want to recognize him, they live there. And most people who live there a long time. And they should have a chance to honor their neighbor. And third, Valley Lodge had been down the block for years, and now almost the whole block's taken up by Wistfish at 108th, and we endorse, and on behalf of Wistfish, we endorse this secondary naming, and we'll send a letter to that effect if it'll be helpful.
Great. Are there any more comments from the community?
I have a question, Howard.
Sure.
Maybe you know the answer. I'm forgetting now. If you go to DOT's website, do they have historical information on who all the secondary street names are, all those folks that are named? Or does that go by individual community boards that it supposedly keep a record of who you've secondarily named streets for?
Well, I know our community board has a list. I'm looking at it as we speak.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a citywide list. Maybe
There
someone
is.
else does.
There's a DOT list.
The
And,
guy
and they've
that,
got the information about everybody who's got a name up there, right?
Yes,
Or they
yes.
don't.
They do.
It's not a DOT list. It's put together by the guy who Mark was referencing, Gil Tauber.
Oh, sure.
It's a private citizen who's taken it upon himself to do it. But he's no longer going to be adding to it. It's
He was great.
It's going to be extant, but he's not. It's like Mr. Delgado's.
But it is available, in other words.
Yeah, and actually, even though I typically vote against these secondary street names, I'm the reason that they're on CB7's website, because I understand their historical importance, and I appreciate that. So I put them on there.
Why don't we vote? Okay. All those
I second.
Okay. All those in favor, please raise their hands. Andrew, you're doing the counting?
I will certainly do it.
Great.
Committee members only, please. 1, 2, 6, 7. I see 7 hands raised. Can you put them down? All those opposed to the resolution, raise your. I can't see the non-electronic hands. So if there was more than 7 on that one, somebody needs to lower the hands because these are now. I'm asking for those in opposition.
All those opposed.
I don't have the ability to do that.
Jay, you. Oh, okay.
Okay. I see 1 opposed. All right, can we lower that? And anybody abstaining? I see 1. 1. 7, 1, 1, 0. Now I guess we should ask for non-committee board members in favor of the resolution. 1, 2, 3. I see 3 hands raised. Can we lower those? Non-committee board members in opposition to the resolution. None. Non-committee board members abstaining? None. All right, so it was 3-0-0-0 for non-committee board members. Jennifer, thank you so much for that.
Yep.
Thank you all so much for your time and for putting this into
You understand this goes to full board.
I do. Okay. I will see you all in a month. And please stop by Aníbal Avila's playground to see what we've constructed.
Absolutely.
Okay. Have a good night. Thank you all.
You too.
And last but not least, we have one more revocable consent, and that is Ms.
Charlotte Dewald and Caroline Van Scheltinga. Can
Yes.
you hear it? Okay.
Yes. Why don't you tell us about what you're looking for?
All right, good. And I'm sorry I didn't get on quickly.
Not a problem.
So our project is at 68 West 83rd Street. This is the building. Can everybody see the screen? Can you see it?
No, and we can't see you anymore, Charlotte.
No,
Oh, no, I'm sharing the screen.
Is Charlotte allowed to screen share?
Yes, she is. I think you may need to let me screen share content. Let me try it again. Okay. And there's Caroline here. You see her picture. Okay. All right. This is the building, 68 West 83rd Street, where we want to enlarge the existing areaway to be more in conjunction with the neighboring buildings. The next picture is looking east from the building up the street. This picture is looking west from a neighbor's building, and you see the screen now, right?
Oh, yes.
Okay, this is a close-up shot of the building, the entryway where we want to do our work. Another close-up shot. These are the steps currently going down into the areaway, looking up from the areaway. This is a tax photo from the 1940s that shows the stoop was already removed previously before 1940s. This is another early tax photo of other buildings on the block that shows some of the detail that we want to replicate, basically the posts and the handrails. This is a building further up the street at 58 that has an areaway similar to what we would like to propose. And this is our application to the DOT, our drawings that were submitted and are, we believe, close to approval. So this just shows the building and where it is in relationship to the block. The photos below are basically the photos we just looked at. These are the existing conditions plans, the steps that will come out, some of the, and the sidewalk will be replaced. This is our proposal for work that's done. The zone in red is what is in front of the property line, but on the other side of the sidewalk. So what we propose is new stairs down into the enlarged areaway, new bluestone pavers inside the areaway, planters, sort of raised planters and railings in the area that shows red. These are details for the handrails, railing, and planters, and more details. Basically, what we're doing is we're going to replicate what we see at some of the other buildings on the block. We worked with landmarks. Sorry, hold on. We worked with landmarks to decide what to do. And basically the railings, this is a project that was done at 60 West 83rd Street where they replaced their original posts and handrails. And we would like to do something very similar to that. And we worked with landmarks and we got their approval in 2020 in November. These are closer shots of 58, which shows the areaway, the lower photograph that goes in front of the building all the way basically to the lot line. They have
questions. Can I just interject? Did you go through to the landmarks committee of CB7, or you're talking about the city's landmarks department?
We went to the city landmarks, and we got our approval on a staff level.
Okay, I'm just curious why this is before us and not the land preservation committee.
Well, because we have landmarks approval, I'm not sure as well, but the DOT wanted it to go to you. So we just found it. Yeah, so
Howard,
I'm not exactly sure either.
If I may, Howard.
Sure.
If a project before the Landmarks Commission can be, according to the rules, approved at staff level, it doesn't require a public hearing. It only comes to the board from landmarks if it requires a public hearing.
Correct.
So once, if it qualifies to be approved at staff level, it doesn't require a hearing, so it doesn't come to us for review.
And it's before us because of the impingement on the sidewalk?
Exactly.
Well, that's from DOT. Yeah.
Okay.
That's why it's at your committee. Exactly.
Okay.
That's
Sorry to
right.
interject.
Oh, no, that's fine. So we did work pretty closely with landmarks to make them happy. They were very concerned about the posts and about the level of the areaway. So we'll make castings from one of the neighbors' posts so that we can really duplicate it. And we just think that this project, it will really enhance this row of buildings that are sort of connected and very similar. The others all have stoops, and the line of the areaways come out to the same point with the steps down. The 58 and 68 are almost like the bookends of this row of houses. And I think it's just a very good thing that we'll be doing for the block if it's approved.
Thank you very much. Why don't we take questions, and you can unshare your screen. Doug, then Irena, and then Ken.
Oh, okay. So so some of the questions were answered. So I understand you got approved at staff level, so it wasn't necessary for you to come to LPC. So this is now the work that you're doing goes beyond the lot line of your property and onto New York City property, which is why you're before. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
All right. And so you're saying that you are not encroaching any further out than any of the other buildings on the same line.
Yes.
And how much further are you moving back, which would equal the same, a beam to the other properties?
It's approximately 6'8" from the property line.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Irena, and then Ken.
Thank you, Charlotte and Caroline. I think it wouldn't hurt just to share, maybe Jesse and Max could share the renderings with the co-chairs of the Preservation Committee. Charlotte, just so I'm clear, this townhouse, this brownstone is a landmark?
Yes, this whole street is. It's in the
district.
district.
So it's in the district. Okay, it's in the historic district. Okay. I don't think it would hurt necessarily just to give them the heads up before the full board meeting. In case they want to reach out to the staff and get, comments directly from the staff. I don't think it would hurt, just as an FYI.
We also have a couple of members that belong to the Preservation Committee here, but I'm happy to share it with the co-chairs as well.
Great.
Thank you, Jesse.
Ken?
Yeah, Ms. DeWald, how many feet is it between where your property line will now be, or not property line, but the build out, and the tree pit that's across from it? How many feet?
Well, it's pretty much existing 5'11.5", right?
So it'd be the same?
It's the same, because there's a tree pit. The tree pit, there's one on each adjoining property. There's not one in front of their house. 68. So there's one right on the edge of the property line.
Right.
And that remains the same.
But right now in front of that building, 68, the sidewalk's very wide.
Yes.
In fact, the last picture you showed like 3 people walking abreast, 3 abreast.
Right.
And once they get past your property line, they're not going to be able to walk 3 abreast. That's impossible because our sidewalks are just too narrow. And that's a whole other issue, but I'm not sure I'm in favor of narrowing a sidewalk, even if it puts it in line with the rest of the block, because in a way these sort of open spaces provide some breathing space for pedestrians. And so what we're doing is taking away a little more breathing space and replacing it with a very narrow, cramped sidewalk, where if you have somebody coming the other direction with a stroller and you're walking 2 abreast, somebody has to step aside. I think these breathing spaces are important. So,
well, I just want to say that the building to the west, the big apartment building, has the wider sidewalk because it doesn't really have a stoop. It has only a partial stoop, let's say. But I just think it's important visually to be a continuation of this set of buildings that I think were probably built by the same builder, same architect at the same time.
Mark? Oh, sorry. Sorry to cut you off.
No, that's okay. I understand the bit about the sidewalk. And I think, the tree pits, which we all want, those also infringe on the sidewalk. But, they're not going anywhere. But I still think there's enough space. It's about 6 feet that's remaining. Okay.
If I could interject something that's directed at Ken, the majority of space between the wall of buildings on the north side of the street and the wall of building, you know where I'm going with this, on the south side of the street is for car storage. So I think this beautiful addition to a historic brownstone is certainly worthwhile, given that the greatest use of the space between the two walls of buildings is for car storage. A point, Ken, I'm sure resonates with you.
Yeah, I just, I don't know what the, you tell me what you think the odds are of replacing the car storage with adequate space for pedestrians to walk.
Zilch. Mark.
Thanks. I'm flabbergasted that this could be a certificate of no effect, but I take the applicant at face value. Strange that LPC thought that this shouldn't come before a public hearing, but here we are. I guess my question is whether the areaway expansion will be recessed or excavated, or whether it will simply be a retaining wall at the current sidewalk level, other than the stairs down that already to the small recessed area that's already there.
There will be some excavation, but my belief is that that's how it originally was. That's similar to what's at the building at the other end at 58.
Yeah.
So
and that's exactly why getting a definitive answer to something like that is exactly why I think this should go to a public hearing, but it didn't. So here we are. There's a comment in the Q&A that I want to echo without stealing that person's thunder, which is lots of times these areaways are used, they are recessed all the way around, not just to separate passersby on the sidewalk from somebody's front window, which I suspect has something to do with this application. And I would support that. I wouldn't want to have that as my living room and have somebody peering in, and that's perfectly fair. Especially if that was the original condition. And I, again, suspect that you're correct that it is. But usually what people do is excavate that area and then use it for either trash storage or some other kind of decorative planting or something like that. I didn't see that in your plans.
Oh,
so
there
I'm
is
curious. Yeah, so please tell us a little bit about that.
yes, and so there's basically L-shaped planting along the whole under the handrail that we're matching handrail, the posts that are seen in other buildings on the block, the original ones. No, we have an L-shaped planter. So there's planting, other than the stairway, there's planting the entire way around.
So the planting, is it grade or is it below?
No, DOT, they require it to be like, whatever it is, 8 inches up or something.
Okay, but no trash storage, no anything like that.
There is space underneath it that could be for not big garbage cans, but they have some small little bins that they put some recycling in. The owners do, but very, very small space underneath. Quite
Okay.
shallow.
All righty, thank you.
I'll weigh in. I think this is a beautiful improvement and should be encouraged. Call the question.
Yes.
All those in favor? Ken, your hand's up. I don't know if you want it to be up.
Two, three, four, five, six.
Thank you. You can put your hands down. All those opposed? Oh, I have to put my hand down. No one's opposed.
No one.
Okay, good. Any abstentions? 2. Great. 6-0 to 2. Non-committee members, all those in favor of this renovation? We have 1, 2, 3. 3 in favor. Okay, if you could lower your hands. Anyone opposed to this renovation or abstaining? Great. The resolution passes 6-0 to 2.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Howard, I think Elizabeth has an item of new business she'd like to introduce.
Thank
Great.
you.
And I do as well.
Okay.
Elizabeth and then Arena. We cannot hear you. doesn't look good that her name just disappeared. Irena, why don't you go first, and then we'll have Elizabeth go.
Okay, thank you. I don't know if other board members have noticed this, and maybe this has been going on for a while and I'm just noticing it. But the food truck, the food carts, not the trucks, but the carts, are the ones on Central Park West, on the park side of Central Park West, and I've noticed this on Fifth Avenue, are staying in place overnight. And I thought it was just like an aberration here or there, but it's not. They stay parked on the sidewalk, on the park side overnight, and I've been told that they've been given permission to do this. And I'm actually quite shocked because we both know that both sides, Fifth and Central Park, the Central Park West, the park is a historic district. And if we're going to allow these food carts to sit there permanently now, then that should go through some sort of formal review. They're staining the hex pavers. The pressure on the hex pavers, it's one thing you go in and out, but now they're there, and they're there. This is happening on Columbus Circle, but I think on the Columbus Circle side, I think the concern is now with the bollards, it's hard for them to come in and out. But they're a mess. The Merchants Gate, the entrance to Central Park at 59th Street and Columbus Circle is just disgraceful. But I don't want to raise that here. I'm really more focused on the neighborhoods. Like there was one on 93rd Street, 93rd, 92nd Street that's been there a couple of nights on Fifth Avenue. And I didn't want to bring it up at Community Board 8 until I brought it up here because I thought maybe I missed something. Maybe the community board's aware that these food carts are staying out overnight permanently. And the question is why? Why can't they come in and out and give the Parks Department, the Conservancy, the opportunity to clean the sidewalks? It's just, I don't understand why they're being allowed to stay there overnight. And so I thought I would bring it up here before going to the Parks Committee meeting.
That's a really good point, Irena, and I think we simply need to ask Colleen what the rule is, and then we can take it from there. But we need to know they may be allowed to stay there, or it may be totally illegal. I just don't know.
Yeah, maybe they don't want to give up their space. They're afraid they won't get it back.
Right.
Yeah, but they can't do that, especially I just don't think it's appropriate for these food trucks, these food carts to just, if you allow one on 93rd Street in Central Park West and then another one on 85th Street and Fifth Avenue, what's to stop all these other food carts from deciding they're going to move in and just sit there indefinitely? I don't think it's appropriate. I think it distracts from the beauty of the perimeter of the park, and they're putting a lot of pressure on the hex pavers, and the hex pavers are becoming stained.
Yeah, I agree, but we have to find out if this is legal, and then we can adopt a resolution saying that the law should be changed, or it's illegal, in which case you have a totally different resolution calling for enforcement.
Right.
It's one of the two.
Can I jump in this a little bit for a second? Because I'm pretty sure, but we have the chair of the Parks Committee here, so I'll defer. I'm pretty sure that when they're on the verge of Central Park, and that sounds like what you're talking about, that they're on the verge of Central Park on either side, that it's the Parks Department that grants a concession for these things rather than the usual, it used to be DCA, it's DCWP now.
That is correct.
Yeah, so your complaint is with the Parks Department, not with the Department of Transportation.
So Barbara, should I come to the Parks Committee and raise this issue?
Sure, absolutely.
You know the answer, Barbara? Because I don't.
I did not think that they were allowed to stay overnight, but
I didn't think so either.
Yeah, I'd be surprised, although I don't know.
I may be incorrect.
Okay.
Irena, did you notice if the owner of the carts were there with the carts,
Well,
they were just-
interesting you should ask. So when I got off the bus one night, okay, so I noticed this in the morning going to work and then coming home late at night. And in the morning and in the night, when I went out for work and came in, going home, no one was in it. They were shut down and they were just there. Right? So, and then the ones on Columbus Circle, you can go there at midnight and they're still operating because they're trying to get that, tourist. I mean, it's disgusting. Yeah. It's disgusting down there. But a friend of mine said that he noticed that they're there overnight and they're usually in there overnight. But the ones in the neighborhood, like on 93rd, or they just shut the windows and left them there.
All right, good to find that out too.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's a good issue. Ken?
I had an item of new business, but I didn't want to jump ahead of Elizabeth.
Thanks, Ken. Can anyone hear me? Or
we hear you now.
Yay, excellent. Okay, so this is really quick. Part of the reason I've been on and off video, in addition to my technical issues tonight, was I'm fielding a lot of inquiries about the horse carriage issue in Central Park. And I've communicated with Barbara a little bit tonight. I'm just wondering if we could maybe, again, we worked hard to get vehicles out of Central Park. And I think what we're being asked to sign on to by a lot of groups is to not only want to get rid of the horses, but also put in these vehicles, electric vehicles that are going to be in Central Park. So I don't think it's the most urgent thing in the world necessarily, but I am being asked about it a lot and just wanted to put it on people's radar screens to see if we could get it on an agenda soon. That's it. Thank you.
I don't know, Andrew, maybe you know more than I do. I don't know. People have talked about this. I don't think there's any formal proposal to reintroduce electric cars back into the park. Ken or Andrew may know more about this than I do.
Yes, there is a city council.
There is. Yeah.
Okay, then this definitely needs to be on our agenda. That we fought long and hard to get cars out of the park.
Thank you.
We cannot allow them to come back. It'll be on our next month's agenda.
It should probably be joint, Howard.
Yes, it really should be.
Charged. Absolutely.
The idea is that these electric vehicles will replace the horse carriage.
Yeah.
You could put it on our agenda for our October meeting if you want to.
Okay, we will come up with something, but yes, we will. That's a really good point, Elizabeth. Barbara, we'll definitely add it to the agenda. I didn't realize it had reached
I literally
the
have
level
been
of actual.
I stepped away because I got 3 phone calls tonight from people who are like, why are you guys not talking about this yet? And I'm like, I was accused of being not an animal lover for not signing a petition today. And I think it's very complicated and there are a lot of issues going on. And I think CB7 is a great place to try to figure out how we can resolve this. So
Elizabeth, who are the sponsors of the legislation?
It's Robert Holden, who's Council Member Holden.
And what district does he represent, Elizabeth?
It's Queens, I believe.
Queens. Okay, so
the district of Queens.
Yes, exactly. So
my sentiments exactly, Mark.
Exactly. So anyway,
he's very opposed to congestion pricing.
I know it's been a late meeting. I just wanted to make sure we got it sooner than later on the agenda. Thanks.
Last but not least, Doug, you have something to say?
No, just with to Elizabeth's subject matter, I think it is very important. I don't know if Councilwoman Gail Brewer has weighed in on this, but it seems to me, I don't know the jurisdiction. I mean, all the community boards that border Central Park have to weigh in, but I assume this is going to be not only joint on our community board, but I have to imagine that the Parks Department and the Conservancy are going to have to weigh in as well, right? Yeah,
a lot of people are going to have to weigh in on this, but again, I think we need to get it on our agenda, learn what there is to learn, and develop a position if we feel we have one.
And let's get the wording of the resolution in the council. That would be helpful.
Yeah, that would be helpful. Ken, one last comment?
Item of new business.
Oh, and yet another item of business, okay?
Yeah. Okay. This has to do with City Bike. I know we've had some difficulty getting officials from Lyft to come to our meetings, but it seems to me that there is no effort to rebalance bikes on the Upper West Side. After about 8:30 in the morning, it's transit desert when it comes to city bikes on the Upper West Side. We're pretty much the only neighborhood that's thusly afflicted. The Upper East Side has a lot of city bikes. So there's clearly a lot of unmet demand. And if they would rebalance, I know a lot more people would be riding them, including me. So I would like to hear from them what their efforts are to rebalance and why they're not doing it. By the way, rebalancing means when a station empties out or a neighborhood station empties out, they come up with trucks or bikes and unload them and refill the docking stations.
Ken, I helped design the Angel program that City Bike has, the program where you get some credit if you move a bike from a station that's overloaded with bikes to a station that's almost empty. That program offers such a sliver of an incentive that I don't think it's very effective. That said, that was before Lyft acquired City Bike. Now that Lyft has acquired City Bike, there is no one who will return my call from that organization. If anyone on this call has any way to get someone in any way connected to Lyft to our meeting, great. I don't.
We could try Caroline.
Any method would be helpful. Yes, I've totally failed at it. I've made an effort to no avail. William.
Thank you. If I can echo Ken's thoughts and experience, it's terrible. I've actually transitioned to skateboarding recently because it's impossible to get a bike. And today I rode a bike 3 times. Each one had something broken. I had a broken bell on my last commute home, and it's just very dangerous. So I think this is an urgent matter on how to fill city bikes into our neighborhood. I mean, I think a lot of us, I know I tend to use the e-bike as a great way to get around. And also just safety measures. A lot of the bikes are just not safe. Baskets are loose, brakes barely work. And most recently the bell I had was completely broken.
Great. As we could talk to, we're blue in the face here. The fact is that maybe I'm a little embittered by my experience. I cannot find anyone who will respond to any request for representation or to come to our meeting. So if you can get some action, William, that would be fantastic. It is an enormous problem. And as far as I can tell, they're completely indifferent to it. Irena.
So which city agency
oversees the Lyft contract? Actually, Jay may have some insight into that.
Mr. Adolph?
As to which city agency?
Yes.
DOT.
Well, maybe we should talk to Polly about this and see if she can help us get a Lyft representative, because someone has to be accountable to the community.
Exactly. They have to have some clout with Lyft. We'll speak to Colleen, our representative. We'll start there.
I'll do what I can. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Colleen,
I'm sorry, Andrew. I'm thinking.
Colleen.
I said Polly, right, Andrew?
You did.
Colleen sends her our regrets for not being able to attend tonight's meeting.
Yeah.
I was confusing the old DOT people with the new DOT.
Indeed.
She's not so new. Any Barbara.
Oh, I just wanted to make a motion to adjourn.
Oh, okay.
Second.
Because Barbara's tired of writing.
Everyone have a great
you
night.
all.
Thank you.
See you all soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you for a great meeting.
Good night.